So, hey, my name is Mark Friedler. I built the world's largest video game website in the early 2000s called Game Daily. It was acquired by AOL Time Warner, which at the time was the world's largest media brand. Prior to that, I built Gigex, which is the world's largest download service for free-to-play games. And after that, I started a consultancy, still called Gigex, focused on games, esports, and blockchain. And then
Hello everybody, I'm Edwin Lee. I'm from Hong Kong, China. I work for a Chinese streaming platform called Huya, which is the #1 platform in China with around 146 million active users nowadays. We have launched our overseas product named Nemo in overseas market last year. So we are a local in China market, and we're also global in developing countries like Southeast Asia and Latin America. We are active investors in esports sectors and also content platforms.
So I'm Drew McCourt. My company is called Contact, and we're doing a couple different things here. We have an esports investment platform. We have the French rights, all the Paris teams in Overwatch League, Call of Duty League, now CSGO team and league. So maybe we can talk about that. Came up last, and then on the technology side, we're actually building the middleware to support exactly the platform that you just articulated up here as far as the secondary markets, and it's going to be doing that about 18 months. And you're actually an investor in the Overwatch League and one of the Chinese teams, right? And you're a sponsor of the league itself. Right?
Hey, I'm Michael Codd. I work for ABInBev, so we're the largest brewer in the world with brands such as Budweiser, Corona, Stella, and importantly for esports, of course, as well, Bud Light, sponsoring Overwatch and a couple of other games. I am kind of the crossover between marketing and technology in our company, so yeah, leading those efforts for Zone Europe, and I'm also the lead for esports project, which ABI has like great ambitions, not only to sponsor titles, but really creating new fan experiences for esports fans, and that's what I'm heading up.
So I'm really excited that at Davos we're talking about esports, right? It's super interesting. You know, a few years ago I did a presentation to CNN, and I went in there and I said, can you all name what TV network is bigger than you and Fox and MSNBC combined in prime time? And no one mentioned Twitch. And this was 4 years ago, and Twitch was still relatively new, but the fact that people are engaged and participate. First it started by watching, and now they're engaged in games. It's super interesting. So what I'd like our conversation to be about today is kind of the crossover between branding, what we're doing, what you all are seeing in your businesses. And for full disclosure, I'm also a consultant with ABI. I'm working with Michael and his team on the My Local Esports Bar project, and I've done some strategy work for them, so just so I'm clear with that for everyone. So you have been doing tons of stuff in esports, right? Tournaments. Do you want to talk about that and why you think it's interesting and important for brands?
Yeah, so first of all, just to start a conversation about the TV channels, etc. So I had with Michael yesterday the conversation if TV channels actually have a chance, or whether this, let's say, attracting the audience for gaming and esports. From my experience, so we built a TV channel on gaming and esports, and the numbers were a bit upsetting for us. And what we saw, it was like it's almost impossible to bring these guys to watch the events on TV. So yeah, basically, and from that perspective, I really believe that streaming platforms might be not only streaming platforms, but let's say virtually integrated content distribution platforms, which might or may not be connected to the exact brand or the exact TV channel or media group. So you have this part. So you have the part of media platform, like a streaming platform. You have a TV as a distribution channel, which I want your opinion, but I believe dying. And you have other parts of the ecosystem. So just to open the conversation. Short statement: TV is dying. Platforms will take platforms in a sense are dictating the market. And also, I mean, I want to add one more thing from our experience. In 2016, we've been doing the championship on Counter-Strike and Dota, but like 330k prize pool for Dota and 200k for Counter-Strike. We had an exclusive rights sold to Azubu. I don't know if some of remember of it. Some of you. It's not existing anymore. They made a merger. But what we've seen that Twitch was so powerful that illegal restreams on Twitch had more audience than official streams on Azubu. And our team, we had 5 people like complying this voicemail emails to Twitch. They would cut in it like every minute, but still this streaming illegal channels were dominating the official streaming channels. So this is a difficult question when people say what is content first or platform first.
So I think that's a good idea. Why don't we just come down the rail this way? We'll start with you, Michael. Just kind of an opening statement, like why ABI cares about games and where you see the crossover between gaming brands and your beer brands.
Sure. So I think for the 3 main reasons why, as a brand like Bud Light and also Budweiser, we're heading into gaming. First reason is of course the eyeballs that are there, the audience is there. So I mean, League of Legends gets more viewers than Super Bowl. About the same as kind of Rugby Union, which is getting a lot of attention from brands, but esports not as much. The second reason is how engaged this audience is. So we're running viewing parties for these fans, and I don't see a single phone. No one's looking at their phone. When the game is on, these guys are watching the game, and they're super engaged, right? And that's something I don't see in traditional sports at all. And then the third reason is the fact that no one's really owning this space, except maybe some energy drinks, but we want to become the #1 alcohol brand linked for fans of esports, and I think the time is now to start investing in that.
And in fact, I think, didn't Bud Light get a trademark in the US, the official beer of esports last year?
Budweiser registered to be the official esports beer trademark, so not something we're doing a lot with right now, but I think that was very much a kind of future vision of where the brand wants to play a role. Yeah.
Okay, Drew, from your perspective, you own teams, you have investments, how do you see the interplay between brands and esports?
I mean, the brands are obviously anchor revenue in this, and of course accessing that Gen Z demo is very elusive, and hardness kind of smacks that right in the face, really. So it's to me great value for sponsors to be living in these league environments. And I really distinguish between kind of legacy esports and everything that's happening now with these thoughtful league packaged formats, and I would disagree with some of the comments on the prior panel about some of these publishers are very sophisticated, team owners very sophisticated, considering all the issues around regulatory gambling, everything else in a very thoughtful way, right? So in any event, these structures that have been created that have really become able to package these media rights out, I see huge. I think of this as a media platform, really, as much as anything else. And if you look, for example, like Call of Duty Mobile, 300 million plus downloads in a few months' time, right? And the direct-to-consumer opportunities associated with that, right? It's nice to have hang a hat on local events, selling tickets, sponsorships, a merchandise business, and so on. But at the end of the day, a 300 million, 500 million direct-to-consumer media platform, right? And the opportunities to piggyback that and do things in the media landscape are really, pretty remarkable.
So Edwin, I would argue that China is way out in front, leading the way in a lot of things. I mean, Tencent, Chinese company, is now the largest esports company in the world through its ownership of its own properties, through its ownership of Riot. Tell us about what the future holds. I mean, what you're seeing, what players, how you're interfacing with brands, sponsorship, digital goods. I just read that the Tencent gaming CEO said 2019 was the first time they generated more revenue from media rights than sponsorship. So I'd love to hear what you're seeing in your business and just give us an overview of what's going on in China right now.
So for media rights specifically, we are a platform of esports. We purchase media rights ourselves, but we also periodically the subsidiary of Tencent. So we get investments from Tencent like 2 years ago, and then we go public. The reason why behind the rising price of media rights is because there's only 2 or 3 media platforms in China nowadays, and we are also hungers for good quality contents where it is really insecure in Chinese industry. For example, the LL S10 seasons, the finals, the price for that is $100 million for the next 3 years.
League of Legends.
Yeah. The finals only, not the whole season, only the finals. So the media rights is going up crazily. We also heavily invested in tournaments companies to get before the big price go up. So in terms of the branding itself, there's multiple angles to that. One angle is to the player. The player is also a streamer and also a viewer in a platform. So they'll interact with the fans on a daily basis. They will go streaming like 6 hours after they finish their training. So naturally, they're our content creators. And after they retire from their professional gaming life cycle, which is really short, like 6 years on average, and they will become our loyal streamers. And they have already like secured 6 years of fan base, and which they have a lot of values that been driven by the brand sponsorships and also collaborations between the players and the brands. So this is on the level of players. And also, as a platform, we do not only show the content of esports, we also show like entertainment, outdoor activities, and also all sort of young generations contents, which is created by themselves. So I think esports is one way to go into the industry by the brands that is getting older. And they can expand from the esports hardcore fans to the broader generation of the Generation Z, which they love, hip hop music, EDMs, and also outdoor activities like extreme sports and so on. So this is.
So yeah, I have a question because we have lots of people who believe in franchise leagues here in the panel. So taking into account the double-digit numbers to acquire the franchise, and several triple-digit numbers for rights already. Who will, at the end of the day, pay back these investments? How will it be possible to generate revenues? Will it be companies like ABInBev at the end of the day supporting this ecosystem, or you believe in somewhere else?
No, look, I mean, on the same point, I think it's a media story, right? I mean, just like traditional sports. I mean, I've been investing in this for 15 years plus, baseball, European football, etc. I mean, this is all becoming a media business. In this case, it's just digital first, right? So it's Twitch, YouTube, things like this, as opposed to linear, right? We have linear broadcast as well.
Yeah, but if you take the media rights for football, well, the Sky Sport or something, you pay pretty substantial subscription per month,
right,
to enjoy the Formula One. Also, F1 TV costs some money, but do you believe that young generations will start paying 10, 20 euro subscription within the next couple of years?
Sure, for premium product, I think you want to tier it. I mean, what's interesting in the backdrop of all this, right, is that you've got some of the largest balance sheets in the world, right? The Microsofts with Mixer, YouTube, Twitch, what have you, right? All engaged in this subscription war, streaming wars, 5G coming, all this, right? And this is really interesting live content for them, in my view, in the same way that, say, the Sunday Ticket is for DirecTV to differentiate that platform, right, in a traditional MSO environment, right? So I think if you're 18 years old, you're sat at home and you're thinking, do I, my Prime user, Mixer, Twitch, what have you, right? This stuff may be just the content that differentiates one versus the other over time, right? Hard to say, but we've sort of seen that game play out before. So it's easy enough to kind of get your head oriented in the near term to how important these rights might be to some of the largest companies in the world, right, that are engaged in this. And then also, if you just think about what I was saying before, I mean, pick your platform, whether it's I use Call of Duty as an example because it's recent, right? But 300-400 million users in a very short period of time, and the opportunities that your distribution is already in place, right? So you have an honest, competitive kind of captive environment for all that as well.
Yeah, and earlier we talked about the fourth industrial revolution. I think this is really the fifth revolution. This is really about the network revolution. This is really about people being connected seamlessly, globally, in an engaged platform. And I think up until now, you know, the internet has kind of suffered from a 100-year-old business model that was foisted upon it in the 1990s, which was CPM, you know, cost per thousand. You know, they cooked that up when they were printing newspapers and magazines, you know, 100 years ago. And that doesn't really capture the value, doesn't really capture how engaged people are. But, you know, Michael, I'd be interested to hear your perspective, because I know, number one, ABI is the second largest sponsor in the world of all sporting stuff, right? There's ABI brands plastered all over sports stadiums all over the world. Our initial forays in the esports have been sponsorship specific, but you're taking things in a new direction, and I'd like to kind of understand why you're, I tend to call it sponsorship plus. I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, so we're indeed kind of making a bet on esports as an industry where we want to sponsor. Do we know what will be the ROI and if that's going to be really the direction we want to head long term? No, we don't know if it's going to be a success, what we're trying now. We recently with Budweiser started sponsoring English Premier League, right? With English Premier League we have a pretty good prediction as to what the ROI will be, because you know we've done it with American football and we've done it with other sports. So we are confident in that bet. With Bud Light betting on some of the titles in esports, it's a bit different. It's a different audience there. Therefore, we are not so sure what will be the ROI. But what we're trying to achieve, I guess, is similar to what Bud Light did with NFL. Is that they helped develop the NFL as an industry, right? With Super Bowl and the ads that are linked to Super Bowl, and so kind of I don't feel NFL would be where it is today if it wasn't for the money that Bud Light invested in there, right? And that's kind of what we want to achieve with esports now. I think what I want to do, what I want to achieve, and the company wants to achieve, is that in 20 years' time, and if we talk about esports and some of the titles, like that's the way they grew was because of the help of our brands as well. One other analogy with English Premier League, Barclaycard sponsored the Premier League from the beginning, very heavy investment. They no longer sponsor the Premier League, but I still think in my head it's still the Barclaycard Premier League. And so hopefully it can be, you know, the Bud Light Overwatch League in 10 years' time. And I think if you're that early mover and you have a great grip on some of these sports, I think that lingering kind of affection will stick with the consumers, and it's a younger consumer base for us. So hopefully that's a good long-term investment.
And I think you bring up a really good point, Michael. In my strategy document I looked at the cost of media rights on average per viewer across all leagues. And the cheapest league out there is like the NHL. Maybe a little less is like the WNBA. But esports are less than the WNBA right now. So I had another slide that said, think of if you invested, you know, in the NFL when the NFL started, if you invested in the NBA in 1960 when the NBA started. And so I think that's really the opportunity here. Like we have rear-looking data from Premier League, from NFL, from NBA, from MLB, and if you can be kind of, you know, at the starting gate of something that should be new, I think that's a big opportunity.
Yeah.
Is that the way you guys think about it?
Yeah, and definitely not only the titles, right? So the titles is kind of the obvious place to start, but my opinion is that where the real kind of cloud with the fans is not with the titles, not even with the teams, but more with the players themselves. And if a player switches team, more often than not, he takes all his fans with him to another team. So I feel that fans are much more engaged with those players, and I think that's the direction that brands should also be heading, rather than leagues really looking closer at teams and players in terms of sponsorship.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, we saw that with Ninja this past year. You know, the #1 streamer on Twitch was wooed away by Microsoft for reportedly tens of millions of dollars, immediately growing audience for Microsoft's fledgling streaming campaign. So I mean, like you say, when you think of these people, you know, everyone, there's a free agency, there are people moving around. How do you deal with that with your teams? How do you keep the value on one of your teams? If you have a couple of breakout stars, are they just free to walk after they've gotten super popular, or how do you keep value?
I mean, look, it's early, right? The I'm not clear if we're in sort of this Harlem Globetrotters moment where sort of the influencers are for now, but the pro players are going to become influenced later. Obviously, some will kind of get over that mountain, right? But I think there's some transition happening with all of that. In the case, again, to sort of like the rules and regs, we have salary caps and things like this, and we do, 2 and 3 year contracts with options, and so we do all the typical things that you'd see in sports structured that way.
Is that team-centric, or is that
So
across
league rules different across again, publishers, different leagues, different.
But
Right?
do you-
In Riot and League is a whole different.
So you believe that, continuing these questions, do you believe that franchise leagues is a good investment into getting into the franchise league rather than making more or less like this baseline model where you invest?
Yeah, I think there's no, so I think, look, Phase, 100T, couple others, I think might be sort of durable here to stay based on, what they've been able to do to date, and it's impressive, right? But I think mostly everyone else playing that game is going to get washed out. That's my view.
And you believe that the franchise league is more or less the kind of guaranteed
I think
way?
that selling apparel and relying on apparel and sponsorships only is not investable at this scale. That's how I see it, right? If you have a closed league, allows you to create a media product that is packaged and you actually participate in this whole world we're talking about, Mixer or others, and these guys are just discovering their own sort of premium paywall models.
But you don't need the franchise league, because we started the question which was about really monetizing the audience which follows the team and which follows the players.
Yeah.
And in that respect, I mean, you have other leagues and games. You don't really need to pay substantial sums to get in. Like Fortnite, Counter-Strike, Dota, some else.
Yeah, but they're not good businesses. They're not durable. There's no balance sheet. There's no scarcity. There's no sort of franchise value. There's nothing permanent there. You only differentiate yourself if you win. And to win, usually you have to invest in players. That's highly correlated, and you don't want to be. That looks like traditional sport. You don't want to be chasing that. I really do see it as an old model. There'll be some survivors in sort of like the media 2.0. Big following, they'll be able to rotate that into something interesting, right? But by and large, I really think you're going to see more or less every publisher with a serious esport game go this direction.
So Erin, I'd like to ask you about the Chinese approach, and just to finish, just to make a transition between these questions. I mean, if you delete China from Overwatch viewership, it will be not impressive.
No.
So the question again, is it really good investment in the franchise league for non-Chinese? Edwin, maybe you can take your point there.
Yeah, for us as a media platform, we rather sign a deal with the franchise league or the franchise team than investing in them, because we can always pay a high price, but at least it is a reasonable price. And if we sign the team, the players automatically can only be streaming in our own platform. For example, we signed the team called ABIX, which is the championship team in the last LL finals. So I think in this approach, we kind of managing our own ROI as well to sign them rather than invest in them. So this is one angle. But in the other angle, which we think investing in the team is sustainable, is because we see the value of the team management system, the infrastructure that built to nurturing new and up-and-coming players as well. So we have scanned through the teams in China. There's one or two that is qualified to